I want to update you on our top story this morning. NBC freelance cameraman Ashoka Mukpo has arrived at Nebraska Medical Center to be treated for the Ebola virus. Mukpo was able to walk off the plane and onto a stretcher when he arrived this morning. There you see him. The hospital will provide an update at noon Eastern time. So let's separate fact from fiction with Dr. Devi Parampil, an assistant professor at NYU School of Medicine, and Maggie Fox, NBCNews.com's senior health writer. Thank you both for being with me. And Dr. Devi, I want to start with you. Here you have this patient being able to apparently walk off the plane pretty much by himself. What does this mean?
Well, it's a good sign that he's able to actually walk, that he's not in as serious condition, but we still have to watch him to see if any other symptoms develop. So it's reassuring right now, but we don't know how the actual course might be.
And so what do you think the next few days will be like for him?
Well, with Ebola, the things that you worry about are blood loss, and then you worry about liver failure and kidney failure. So the problems that those cause are that you actually can get really dehydrated, and that's what causes the biggest problem with Ebola, that you lose fluid, and then that's a massive strain on your heart and on your lungs.
And Maggie, a lot of people are concerned right now about getting the virus. What do they need to know?
Well, I think most people need to know that the virus is not going to get them. It's really hard to catch. It's a very scary virus, but doctors who have been dealing with Ebola for years say you really do have to be quite close and in quite intense contact with somebody to catch it. You think warm and wet. Warm, wet fluids are what carry the virus. So things like vomit, diarrhea, and again, it's got to get inside your body. It's not going to just soak in through the skin. You're not going to accidentally breathe it in because it's been floating in the air for hours. You really have to be quite close to the patient to catch it.
And Debbie, health officials have been trying to ease concerns, but how do you put the public at ease when this virus is getting so much attention?
Well, it's actually very difficult to catch Ebola. It's relatively hard to spread, so it has to be through bodily fluids. Now, the thing is, we're hearing a lot about these cases because they're so concerning that Ebola is showing up here in the U.S., but the reality is we're just hearing about isolated cases. It's not like there are clusters of people coming up, and even when we're following the contacts, of course, we have to monitor them for longer, but still, so far, a lot of these contacts aren't turning up positive with signs of Ebola, so that's very reassuring.
And so, Maggie, what do you think we could hear out of this press conference today, later on this afternoon?
About the patient in Dallas, this is, we'll be updated on his condition. The last we heard, he was in critical condition, which is not good. We are really hoping that the supportive care will pull him through, of course. We'll probably hear an update on the people who were the close contacts. There's 10 people. There's 3 family members and 7 healthcare workers who were in really close contact with him. We're moving into the critical period where anyone who may have been infected might begin to show symptoms. They'll be tested twice a day for fever. That's usually the first symptom. And if somebody does start to show fever, they'll be isolated right away, both so they can get quick treatment and also to reduce the risk that anyone else might become infected.
And Dr. Devi, so, do those 2 days that the gentleman in Texas went into the hospital and was sent home with antibiotics and didn't come back until a couple of days later, will that 48-hour period may have been critical for the success of his treatment, do you think?
It could be. I mean, there's an issue with delaying treatment. We don't have an actual cure or a vaccine for Ebola itself, but in terms of the supportive treatment, so when you're talking about dehydration and blood loss, I mean, it might make a difference if that type of treatment started earlier. I mean, the other factor is, was anybody else exposed to the virus during that time? So that's a little bit concerning. I mean, so far he's in critical condition, so we have to monitor that, but it's hard to tell really if those 2 days made a difference, but it's a little more concerning in terms of just looking at our actual preparedness to deal with Ebola.
Yeah. Dr. Devi Parampil and Maggie Fox, thank you so much for being with me this morning. Really appreciate your time.
Nice to see you.
And I want to turn to another major health crisis.